Hello and welcome to the August edition of Coffee with the Pastors. I am Pastor Daniel Hanson, and you may notice I am not joined by any other Dans this month. Maybe we should rename our show today Coffee with the Bishop. Our guest today, Bishop Kevin Jones. Thanks so much for
Hey,
being with us today.
you're welcome. So good to be. I was going to say so good to be back in the studio, but it is my kitchen, and that's where I used to do it from too. So
I was gonna
I'm actually here quite often.
I was gonna ask, is this a little deja vu having had done this so many times, or maybe not?
Yeah, no, I loved coffee with the pastors. I thought it was a great way to kind of keep that information coming out in kind of a fresh way about what was going on at Trinity. And I'll be honest with you, and not to put any pressure on you, but I still watch it. As a
Hmm.
member of Trinity, I'm grateful to know what's going on and to hear what the pastors are saying. And I was especially grateful. I was going to write a note but forgot. After Synod Assembly, I think it was the last the June maybe coffee with the pastors. You talked a lot about what happened at Synod Assembly, and I was really grateful for that. So thank you.
You bet it. You bet it. It's been a fun medium for me to be able to share different things and yeah, just have conversations. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
well, I thought it would be fun if we could chat a little bit about RAGBRAI because you just got back from a week of writing RAGBRAI with the other Iowa bishops, and
Hmm.
I'd just love to hear a little bit about that experience, how it was. I know a lot of people at Trinity have been holding you in prayer and cheering you on throughout this experience, and really excited about the collaboration between the
Yeah.
different synods. So maybe we could start by talking a little about where this idea came from. Maybe it was just an idea that came out of the blue, or um,
Well, weirdly, it's an idea that was first hatched at Trinity.
hmm,
Um, 2 years ago, after I was elected, but before I took office, the interim bishop, Andrea DeGroot-Nesdal, invited me and Bishop Current from southeastern Iowa and Bishop Hallis from western Iowa together. And they actually came to Mason City and we sat in the Trinity Library
hmm,
and just got to know one another and to talk a little bit about ministry. And Bishop Current just said, and she just reminded me of this last week. And she said at that meeting, she goes, "We should do something big together, like ride RAGBRAI and raise money for something."
hmm.
And at that time, that was one of those out there in the future, could be possible, but in the back of my head I was like, nah, that won't be the thing that actually happens. And so I went, yeah, that would be fantastic, something like that, right? And then last summer, late or maybe early in the fall, we were together again, and she said, hey, last year you said you'd do this. And this is I love this about Bishop Current, is that when she's got a great idea, she just like follows through on it. And
Hmm.
so she goes, we said we'd do that. Are you still interested? And I went, sure, why not? Right. And at the time, none of us, well, I guess Bishop Hallis had been doing some bike riding, but the others, we hadn't done much bike riding. I think the previous 2 years, I had done maybe 6 miles total on my
Hmm.
bike. Um, and so I was like, yeah, and we said let's commit to doing 50% of each day, um, and uh, because we didn't know how far we could go, and then let's try to raise $50,000 for world hunger, and that seemed like a kind of a big hairy goal and an audacious kind of thing. And so I went, yeah, sure. Okay. So that's actually where the idea kind of got hatched. And then someone just held my feet to the fire and said, we're going to do this. Right.
Well, how did you get ready? Like one doesn't jump from doing 6 miles to doing RAGBRAI, right? So
Yeah.
what
Right.
did that look like?
Um, for me, that was in the fall, then taking it seriously and going, oh, RAGBRAI is not something you hop on your bike and you just do. Um, And so Amy and I, we had an exercise bike. It was an older one. We bought a nicer one and put it in the basement. And I started in early October getting on the exercise bike. And, the first day I was on it, I could do 20 minutes at a really low resistance and was sweating and just like, I've had enough. But just committed to getting on it 5 to 6 days a week. And I was like, just do 20 minutes this month, add 5 minutes next month, add 5 minutes, every month I turned up the resistance a little bit on it and just did it. Really committed. I got a calendar and I wrote down how long I would go every day and how many miles and what the resistance was. So I kept doing that until mid to late April, and then got out on my bike and felt pretty good. But then it started kind of the physical training was okay. It was the psychological training that kind of then popped up. I went, I have to know that I can go from one city to another. So one Saturday morning, I just was like, I'm going to ride over to Clear Lake and back. And that was about a 24-mile ride. And so I did that. It totally wiped me out for the day. But I was like, okay, I can do this, right? And I'll just have to build up the number of towns that I'm able to go to. But then in May, beginning of May, Amy and I bought new e-bikes, which was really helpful too. So found that the e-bikes that has made riding fun for me. I don't get worried if there's a great big hill. I let the bike do more work, but then slowly decrease the amount that I was, using the bike for. So by the time we got to RAGBRAI, I had ridden 1,000 miles, and followed a training program that RAGBRAI puts out, or a bike trainer does. And had done it. So I'd ridden over 1,000 miles in preparation. And it turned out that physically I was ready for it. So, yeah.
A journey to begin the journey. That's amazing.
Yeah. I'll be honest, by the time, like the week before RAGBRAI, I did one 80-mile ride. And I was so sick of the training. I was like, I'm sick of training. I'm ready to do this. Let's go. But yeah, physically I found that I was ready and able to do it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, would you be willing to share a little bit about the experience of doing RAGBRAI? I'm sure you met some really interesting people along the way, or maybe you had some different experiences. RAGBRAI is its own interesting experience just to be a part of. How many? I didn't see how many riders they said were riding this year.
The number I heard was there were 20,000 week-long registered people, and then another 7,000 got a day pass. They gave out 7,000 day passes for different days. The day we rode from Ames to Des Moines, they estimated 60,000 people took part in the ride, at least a part of it.
Wow.
I think Madrid was counting 6,000 people coming through that little town per hour, which was just crazy. Last summer was kind of my first real experience with RAGBRAI when they stopped overnight in Mason City. And we had gone downtown and just watched the bikers come in and come in and come in and come in. And it was something else. And, with all this stuff going on downtown and around the city, that was kind of my first taste of it. But we were there for a couple hours. This is, someone said it's like Mardi Gras, only you're in a different town every night. You just do this parade across the state. And that's a pretty good way of describing it. yeah, there was just a lot of people on the road. Um, there were times when there were 6 bikes going across the road in abreast, and then the people in front of me were maybe only a couple feet in front of me.
Hmm.
I found that I was I was really in the moment for almost the whole ride, just because you were paying attention to the road, you were paying attention to the other riders, you were paying attention to safety things and that kind of a thing. From that standpoint, I described it someone I was visiting with today. I said physically, this was less demanding than kind of the mental fatigue
Hmm.
of just being focused so much for so long every day. Um, but kind of it was an interesting thing. Man, characters. I think one of the things that happened was my brother Keith from Pella and my wife Amy kind of came along as my support team.
Hmm.
And so what would happen was that one of them would drive the car and meet us in the meetup town halfway, and then meet us at the end of the day. And then the other person would ride their bike. So they took turns riding with me. And it seemed like every day that Amy was with me, we ran into the 3 guys who were doing the whole thing wearing only Speedos.
Oh.
Um, and then they had like American flag capes that they wore. It was, yeah,
So
a
some
lot of
real
those kind of,
characters.
a lot of characters like that. Yeah, there was people riding bikes that were the hand cranks. Someone was riding a penny farthing, the with the big wheel in front and the tiny wheel in back, that old 1800s looking bike. Someone was riding that. There was um, another young kid riding a unicycle. There was a group of women who did the whole thing on rollerblades.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so I mean, people join in, and it just gets a little bit kind of weird and crazy sometimes. Uh, but there's just a lot of people. There are those who get on, go as fast as they can, get done as quick as they can, work in groups, or on a bicycle team or something like that. Then there are those that are we're just out for a bike ride,
Mhm.
you know. Um, so yeah, there's kind of all of those people in between. And so to kind of figure out what's my ride, what am I doing today? I'm not racing. I'm not, just trying to get to the end safely. And so yeah, we had those. We had team jerseys on. And so on the back of the jersey, it said ELCA Bishops Ride Against Hunger. So as people rode up, they could read that, and people would come up and go, "Are you a bishop?" And, yep, I'm a bishop. And then they would talk to us for a little bit. But they would also mistake the other people in my team. So my wife, Amy, people would go, "Are you a bishop?" And she would go,
Oh.
"Nope, but that guy is." And they would look at me, and then they'd just talk to Amy anyway and not talk to me. So, but a lot of kind of cool conversations along the way. One of the first day, we were stopped for lunch, and this guy came up and started talking to me. He was there with his daughter. She was a teenager. And he said he was from South Dakota, and he made a joke about his bishop not riding with us. He
Oh.
was a Lutheran. And he called her a slacker or something. And I said, "Yeah, your bishop is not a slacker. I know that for sure." But she wasn't riding the bike. Um, but then we started talking, and my brother was riding with me that day, and he said something about, "Where are you from?" And we said, "We grew up in Michigan." And he said, "Oh, after my wife and I were um, first married, we worked at a camp in New Era, Michigan." And I went, "Oh, is that Stony Lake?" And he looked at us, and it's like this little ELCA camp. And I was like, "That's where I went when I was a kid."
Hmm.
And he had worked there like 10 years after I had been there. But it was just like this moment, where, oh my gosh, the church, there's not that much space and distance between us as we make these connections. And he pulls out his wallet, and after we told him what we were doing, and he gave me a cash donation for World Hunger, right? And so we had those. We also had little cards with QR codes that we handed out to people, so people along the ride were able to make donations once they heard about what we were doing, and we're able to talk about all the kind of anti-hunger ministries that our congregations across the state are involved in. And so it really became kind of a fun thing. I think the thing, Pastor Daniel, that I'd have to throw in too was just how much work this was for a whole bunch of people. It's one thing for the bishops to go, or for me to say, oh, I worked so hard training, but there were just as many people that worked a lot of hours, and we're looking forward to us coming. A lot of churches that did pie sales or spaghetti dinners or lunches along the route and had people out. A lot of congregations that had raised money and wanted to present us, with we had one church, I think in Newton, that had a laminated big check written out. And then they told us that they just have that blank check laminated, and then they just use a dry erase marker. And whenever they give a donation to a group, they use the same check. And I was like, that's actually a brilliant thing.
Yeah.
A lot of congregations hosted some of our team. So some of our team stayed in church sanctuaries and church basements along the way to get air conditioning and have a bathroom. It was a lot of work by especially Western Iowa and Southeastern Iowa, since none of this route came through Northeastern Iowa. Their synod staffs did a lot of work to prep and prepare along the way, and their congregations. So really grateful for all the work of those pastors and those congregations and the synod staffs and those two synods. Really made this possible. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that's been so cool for me to see is just to think about the collaboration, to think about, as you say, while there are synod boundaries, right, we're the same, right? There's this sense of being able to connect with all the congregations there. And it's kind of a bummer it didn't come through Northeastern Iowa this year, so that, but yeah, I know some of my pastor friends were talking about trying to find a bishop. And they had Facebook posts, and it was just fun to see the energy that brought, and the energy not just to you three as bishops, but to World Hunger, right? This was a fundraiser for World Hunger to raise awareness for the different hunger ministries, as you said, and to raise money for ELCA World Hunger, which if there's anything we can agree on together, right, it's World Hunger.
Right.
And that's I'm curious, are there any ministries you'd like to highlight, or is the Synod doing anything to highlight some of those ministries that are in the state? Or
what we'd like to do now is kind of move to a phase where we're highlighting some of those anti-hunger ministries in our Synod, and we sent out invitations to 30 congregations or ministries in the Synod to get some information back to us, just a little blurb or synopsis about what is one of your anti-hunger ministries that you do. We're hoping to highlight those on our website and on our e-news, and do like one from each synod, do 3 of them per week, one from each synod between now and say Advent. So that we can get 50 stories of anti-hunger ministries across the state, just so people know, but I think also maybe to spur the imagination of some folks, or to make people realize just how much work ELCA ministries and congregations are doing to help people, right? I think sometimes it's easy when we hear churchwide or the synod staff say you should be doing ministry. Well, we are doing lots of ministry already.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we lift up enough the good work that we're doing. So that will be some of the stuff that we're doing. And so yeah, we sent out those invitations, and we're hoping to get that information back. Um, uh, but one of them that I had thought about just around Trinity is the Wednesday night meal.
Mm.
And you might think that that's not for an anti-hunger ministry, but there are a lot of neighborhood folks that come that are hungry, and that to get a free meal or a meal for a free will donation at the church really makes a difference in how much they get during the week. So it's these kind of things where we might not think that that's really a big deal, but for some folks it really is. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we'll look forward to hearing those stories coming
Yeah.
out. That'll be in the Synod e-news, you said. Where do they?
E-news, and we'll try to get them posted on our websites as well. And yeah.
Awesome. Is there an updated total for money that's been raised from the three synods? I'm sure that changes every day as churches continue to send things in, and
It does. We have been blown away by just the generosity. The total that we had after the ride was 63,000. But then this week, I know $4,000 more have come in to our synod for the RAGBRAI ride. So that puts us at 67, and I don't know what the updated totals from the other two synods are. So I'm guessing we're going to hit 75 or better,
okay.
Which is just unbelievable. And the generosity of our congregations and our people to do this is just admirable. Just I think we're going to try to get the story out to some of the rest of the ELCA to go look what we could do.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's exciting to think about that we've raised that much money to help feed people.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, and what a great example of what we do together, right? That this,
Yeah.
How many congregations between these synods this is all us working together to do this. It's not one person. It's not, it's all of us working together, and that's church, right? That's
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, maybe a question to close things out. As you went on this journey, as a part of a pre-journey to get ready for it, as you went on the journey of the actual week, as you've come back and been able to tell the story of all that you saw and experienced, where have you seen God and the Spirit in the midst of all this?
Yeah. One of the kind of mantras that I just had in my head, we've got some friends that have said, we can do hard things. They said to me that there's a couple, and they were like, this is our motto. We keep telling each other, we can do hard things. I just said that kind of to myself all week. Oh, I can do hard things, right? I can't do them all at once, and I can't do them by myself. And that was really what this week was about. Folks have said, would you do it again? And there's a part of me that says I would love to ride my bike every day for a whole week across the state. That part was fun to me. I was actually excited every morning to get back on my bike. I was also excited every afternoon to get off my bike. But that was a great surprise too, to realize, I worked really hard the day before and was ready to be done, but then was ready the next day to get back up and do it again. And I think, that's part of the spirit at work, right? We work hard and we think, oh, I'm done. And then it kind of pokes us. It gives us a rest that says recharge, but gives us a poke and goes, get back up. You need to do some more. You need to go a little further. So I think that's there. And just to see the excitement from our pastors, to get texts from pastors and lay people, and to just go, we're praying for you this week in the heat. Be careful. The care was just really helpful. We had one of the other bishops in Region 5 texted the bishops every night and gave a blessing to us every night for the day. And just to know that people were thinking about us and working with us, and the excitement and energy that really did. And the number of people who have said this is really inspirational is touching to me, because I'm like, I'm just riding my bike, right? I don't mean to be inspirational, but I'm glad, right? I'm really glad. And I think that is the working of the Holy Spirit. And that's, kind of that infectious thing that the Holy Spirit, when you're doing something good, that's aligned with what God is about, then other people catch that, right? It's, hi, bud.
Yeah.
It's the the faith is caught, not taught, right? And I think people see that and get involved and want to be a part of it. So that, I think that's where I'd say I really saw God in the week. And the other piece was just, I think everybody on our team somewhere along the way stopped and rendered aid to another bicyclist who needed help. And in some cases we received aid. When Bishop Current got a flat tire one day, when kind of the rest of our team had decided not to go on. And for those who have done RAGBRAI, the U.S. Air Force has a biking team that bikes, and they stop and help everybody along the way who needs help fixing tires or bikes or whatever. And so to watch them and just see kind of this community work together in good ways and in bad ways was just inspiring. I mean, it was good and fun and a blessing to be able to do that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, any other stories you'd like to share, or any other things from your experience that you want to?
Yeah, no, nothing, just other than to say thank you to everybody for their prayers, for their support, for the texts, for donations. I know Trinity passed some on, and that was, I'm really grateful for that. Yeah, I don't know that we'll do this exactly again, but I think the success of this might have us thinking about other ways we can continue to collaborate and do some good ministry together.
We'll have to see what the next far out there idea that no, that's not going to work. See which ones the Spirit takes hold of. And
yeah, I'll be a little more cautious about nodding my head the next time.
Very good.
Let me think about that. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Bishop Jones, for your time today and for sharing your story and for your ministry here in Northeastern Iowa. Thanks for being at the Coffee of the Pastors this month.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm excited. Like I said, it's been a while. I love Coffee with the Pastors and happy to help out.
Awesome. Well, we will be back again next month with more Dans. But until then, God's blessings to you in this month, and we will look forward to you tuning in next time. God's blessing.
Very good.
Talk to you
later.
Right.
Bye-bye.